Claudia.
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing, girl? Long time.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah, well, Claudia and Christine, we have several websites going. Claudia has hers, and we've got the Earth Empaths website. And anybody that's listened to us in the past knows that we were making recordings for a couple of years, and we haven't sat down together for about a year now.
Yeah.
So I think in keeping with the season, we're at the end of a year, we're at the end of a big cycle, and lots has changed. And as Claudia and I are often will do, we go ad lib. So we really haven't been talking about what we're going to talk about today together, have we?
No, not so much. There's so much going on at the moment. It's like, let's just pick something.
Exactly. Yeah. So I had a bit of I had a quiet moment this morning where I just was able to listen, and I'm in my own process right now of somewhat of a review of my own life, all the occurrences, things that have stood out in my life, so along with this came a very prevailing theme. And a lot of people are speaking to it right now, which is artificial intelligence, what we can call AI, what we can call data, computerized data, or the big question that a lot of folks are wrestling with. It's not a new one, but are we living in a simulation? You and I addressed this probably right from the get-go when we met each other.
Yeah, pretty much.
We also have done different, we did a massively long, complex series of 5 parts with Alfred Weber. And, so I feel deeply that to really establish anything that's viable, understandable within a truth, it needs to be simplified.
Yes, I think that's the crux of any situation, really. But especially when it comes to AI, because the more convoluted something is, the more lies will slip in, and we're more likely to miss the point entirely.
Exactly, which is probably one of the points or one of the tactics that are being used on the human mind constantly, is just a constant data downloads, and with false flags and all the events that are constantly being thrown at us. And, I've long not listened to mainstream news, but even, if anybody that's on forums or follows Facebook is very, very aware that the information download is extreme. So how do we sort through it? How do we know what we could term real? Some people call it an organic timeline. Some people call it other things. What do we living here on this earth plane as incarnates in a human body? How do we determine what is truth and what is real from what is false? And I think for me, it's come down to something fairly simplistic. I'd like to try to explore that with you today.
Okay.
One of the first things that you ever brought to my attention when we started looking at artificial intelligence was that there is a source AI. And I had to spend some time wrapping my own thought patterns, do my own investigation around that. I think you remember several times I'd go, Claudia, I get it. So let's take it from there, Claudia. Okay, we have a source, AI, which is the original bits and bytes, zeros and ones of our creation.
Yes, although is it really binary?
Well, this is where I'd like to go. Exactly, because I actually recommend, and I did listen to a talk by Linda Moulton Howe not too long ago, and I thought she did a really excellent job of bringing this out, because if we talk about a flat plane, that's zeros and ones. That's just data, okay? Whether you have it on a DVD or in a hard drive or wherever you have it, you can store massive amounts of data. But data doesn't create.
No.
So what is it that will take data into manifestation, or what I like to call our realms? It's like creation life. What gives this data life? I think we talked about it a little bit, and that's where a lot of people say we go into the tertiary or the trine, or the third aspect of creation, which for me has come to be sound.
Well, yes. Can't get anywhere without it.
Right, so vibration and sound. And then we are dealing with a manufactured, computerized, artificially created reality, which probably anybody listening to this video is well aware of. It comes through our TV screens, through our smart meters, through all the electronical metal components that are being used right now to feed human consciousness what they want us to recreate as reality. And of course, the primary way that they do is fear, trauma and fear. So how do we multidimensional, and we know we'll talk about that a little bit, we have capacities way beyond what we're using right now. How do we differentiate the false from the real? That's a big question.
You're going to come up with a formula?
A what?
Are you going to come up with a formula?
No formulas, dear.
Okay.
It's something everybody has to discover for themselves. I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm afraid so. It's like most people talk about AI as something, not only something very dangerous, but something very negative as well. And I've never quite understood that, because, I mean, firstly, we could not function in a simulation without an AI component, for starters. So if we view AI or anything to do with AI as negative or as dangerous, there's immediately a constant fear factor that will control our every action, our every thought. Data itself is never good and it's never bad.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on how you view it. It depends on the perspective. And I think that's what a lot of people leave out or don't realize. I mean, AI can become very dangerous, which is obviously something that we're dealing with right now with, you know, all the electronics wreaking havoc all over the planet. But how did it become like that? It wasn't just some sudden invasion. Mm-hmm. It's always been there. And it's been slowly growing bit by bit, very sneakily, because nobody noticed. Mm-hmm. But now we all know about it.
Well, those of us know, you know, I'm certainly, most of humanity is well aware of the use of artificial intelligence in many different ways. But I think that's probably the most fundamental thing, is if it's just data, Okay. And if this is a field of consciousness or a field of creation, there has to be something, a field in which any data can manifest in. Otherwise, what is it? It's just.
But the data has to be manipulated in order to manifest.
Right, in one way or the other. So when we interface and we are deeply enmeshed, let's say, in our original source data, we're also deeply enmeshed in this artificially created fear reality. They're not really different.
No.
And when you get to that point, you realize that your consciousness, your choices, your abilities, your own ability to hold massive amounts of data, not in a linear fashion, but in a more spherical whole way. You're the interface. You, me, Claudia, all of us are the interface. We are actually the creators within this reality.
Exactly.
And so many have discussed, and you and I have, that an artificially computer simulated reality, which are these quantum computers and everything that's being written, it can only mimic the real. And so when you start to really internalize that, you really do step out of fear of it. That doesn't mean you don't see the horrors or the real potential for complete destruction, but you actually understand that you, me, you, whoever we're talking to, will overwrite that field by a consciousness. And I've observed now for this past year rather acutely, because behind everything, I'm a screen right now, you're a screen, right? We're just a projection on a screen, but behind you and I and everything else in creation that is within the source field is spirit.
Yeah.
And spirit holds everything. It holds wisdom. It holds guidance. And the closer we get in contact with that world of spirit, the more able we are to flow through this particular time frame without fear, without anxiety. And I continuously am observing that the more consciousness, okay, that's more awake people. That's more people praying for peace. That's more people holding an internal center of peace, that it is affecting how the outer is projecting.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the most important points is that we, as in all of humanity, create the collective. And the collective is what is reflected back to us. So if we look at what's going on in the world and we want to change it, then I think the first thing we need to do is change the direction of our thoughts. Like, not, okay, we see the fires in California, for example. And I'm not even going to go into whether they are man-made or not.
Mm-hmm.
But we just see the fires. And instead of dwelling on how horrible it all is, we can stop for a moment and say, no, this is not what I want for my reality. I want to see not fires. I want to see gentle rains that are perfect to fertilize the earth, to keep the grapes going, in the case of California.
Mm-hmm.
And if enough people do that, then this will, even if one does it, it'll feed into the collective. But if many people do it, it will change the reflection.
Very subtle point here, Claudia, that you bring up. And that is, even if one were able to, let's say, interface with, and I will go with that the fires in California are being artificially created.
Oh, yeah, I mean.
And so I had an experience this morning. not that I went there on purpose or did anything. I was more or less spiritually or internally called to, I'm from California. I love Northern California and Napa Valley and all of that. So something in me responded, and I went there in spirit, and I did see the energy created that was pretty dastardly. I mean, we're not dealing with just, we're dealing with a very, very sophisticated, one could say energetic weapons, but it's a combination of HAARP, chemtrailing, and all sorts of things, probably other energy weapons that we were aware of, but we can't really pinpoint them. And I saw basically was a very jagged energy field that was off the coast, and it was literally radiating along the coastline.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I realized that at the minute my consciousness saw it, that all these spiritual helpers, from thunder beings to the spirit behind this creation, were right there. See, me, okay? I mean, I'm nothing, really. It's not about me. It's just that each of us are doing this individually where we are called. And I saw that energy start to soften, and it started to roll. And I thought, rain, rain. Yeah, clouds, rain, and let it go. I just let it go after that. But what I've noticed, and what I really want to bring up from what you said, is that how many times do you notice this, Claudia? You have a conscious awareness of something, whatever. It comes into you, and you're very aware of it. You see it clearer. You see how to deal with it. And then you notice through this digital realm that we're talking on right now, all of a sudden 10, 20, 30 other people that you maybe look at on Facebook are viewing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it happens more and more now.
Exactly. And so this takes the ego out of it, which is a necessary thing to redraw the ego out of it, because all of a sudden you understand that you are just one part of something so much greater, but you've tapped into that. And this is what I feel is like the reality that will change the outer reality if we are to make it through this cycle.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, I mean, talking about ego. Sorry.
Go ahead.
You were lagging there.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Talking about the ego, I mean, we will never know whether we are that one drop of water that will finally hollow out that stone. So let's just imagine it's going to be me, it's going to be you. Just imagine that yours is that point where the stone is being hollowed out after a million drops previously.
Yeah.
And then it becomes important.
Well, the other, side of that whole metaphor, the ocean is in that one drop that is me. The whole ocean is in that. And it just, when you think of a drop hitting water, it's not like, oh, here I am, special drop, right? You just become part of that ocean. And using that actually as a metaphor is when we reach a state of at least some semblance of balance inside ourselves. When we pull back enough of our own pieces and we've made enough decisions towards love, towards harmony, towards creation versus destruction, hate, and all the other side of that. Each of us has to deal with that on our own. But when we get to a place, then something transpires inside of ourselves. And once that is, I don't know what the right word is, once it becomes a more permanent state of being, where more and more people on the planet are reaching that, because it's always an inner journey.
Yeah.
I can't go out there any longer, and I tried. Believe me, I tried. I wanted to change people.
Oh, heck yeah. You're not the only one.
No. you know, and
Can't you see it?
I know, I had something called a cosmic frying pan for a while, I mean, I don't know for all the good that did, but it you, me, all the drops of water, when we're in that field or that cosmic ocean, we all as a collective are the elements that are changing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things that is vital to talk about too is because, well, this is pretty well known. It's talked about. There's a lot of gurus out there. There's a lot of, let's call them more wise people that have spoken to this for a long time. For me, it's been a vital process to see all the negative, to see all of the destruction, to fully embrace that also. So I'm not just turning.
Otherwise, you're not going to know what's good.
Right. But
we live in a duality.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to know both sides in order to get it.
Mm-hmm. So this is like really a fundamental, and to go back to the question, how does one being, I like that better than a person because a person is fictional, one being know? Because people say that I'm in my knowing state. I know. How do we really know? What is real knowing? What is really truth? And for me, I've refined it down to my own inner self, listening, and I hear a ring, a sound. It's not data. It's when many, vastly, sometimes vast points of data become coherent,
Mm-hmm.
that I hear a sound that speaks to me personally as truth. Otherwise, I'm chasing things. Otherwise, I'm grabbing for this. Oh, what's that person going to say over here? Oh my God, I have to go listen to this over here because I might be missing something. And so that's how I try to verbalize it, is listen to your own inner sound, your own truth. And then for me,
for me too.
what's in me? What's talking to truth to me? Because truth doesn't come to me like rage.
No.
It doesn't come to me as hatred.
No.
Quite
the opposite, actually.
It comes to me as an all-encompassing sound.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point forward, my mind has no more doubt. My mind can't make another argument with me. My mind can't tell me anything because it's sort of like the wholeness of me, my body knows. And this is something that, goes beyond just practicing quieting your mind.
Mm-hmm.
My mind is silenced.
Yeah.
And then from within this inner aspect, you could call it water or you could call it a fluid state. It informs my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've learned to wait for that to happen before I make action.
And you probably find that very often action is not even needed anymore.
Exactly. That's so beautiful, Claudia. And that is very, very much deep, because truth has, should we call it power? I don't want to call it power. Truth is a force field.
Yes, that's probably a better.
Mm-hmm. Truth is a force field. And so as more of us are collectively in that band of truth, what we want to call it, there's more force there. The truth is driving the story now.
Yeah.
Not the lie, not the deception, the truth. And I think anyone that, I'm certainly you, and it can be a struggle too, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, when I find some profound truth, and it doesn't really matter whether it's profound just to me or in general, I don't find it a struggle anymore. It's getting there that is a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like climbing that mountain, and not once you're up there, you can see the much wider field,
Mm-hmm.
because you've arrived at truth. And then it happened a few times with me that I was, figuring out stuff, and suddenly something occurred to me, and I knew it was the truth, which, it had been like denied quite vociferously at times. And then suddenly I arrived at the point where I knew without the shadow of a doubt that it was the truth. And whereas until then, I had always not only doubt, but almost anger,
Mm-hmm.
not actual anger, but very close to it. And then when I realized, yeah, this is the truth, I was at peace with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be quite a profound experience, no matter what that truth is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know there have been occasions when I could have felt pretty stupid that I had not realized it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. I mean, we're all learning.
Right. And I think that's another I want to underline that too, is that none of us, you, me, any of us, can see what we can't see until we see it. And
Yes.
that is an internal journey. And that's where I had to myself come to that realization. That doesn't mean I'm not going to speak what I see. That doesn't mean I'm not going to share my information. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to let mothers know about vaccines. It doesn't mean I'm going to shut up.
No.
But
No.
the way I present that without that anger or that barb behind it, because like you said, it's like if that's a stone, a person is in a solidified state where they can't, for whatever reason, fear, social, whatever, they can't let go of something. It's like that drop of water, like you just said. It's just like, so we keep putting out this information and keep putting it out and keep putting it out. But how we do that is indicative of how a person might accept it or not accept it.
Yeah, very true.
And that doesn't mean that there aren't times that we are called to be adamant. We're called to be strong in it. It doesn't mean that that's not it. But when it's resonating from an inner sense of self and your own truth and your own discoveries and even the excitement of them, you also are sort of out of a non-judgmental state of mind where I'm going to do my best for my friend, my family, my mom, humanity, a larger body. I'm going to do my best, right? But not judge them for their lack or for them not being able to see what I'm trying so diligently to share. And I've just had to come to that myself. I've had to learn that myself. And it doesn't.
We all do. It's not something that, somebody can teach us.
Mm-mm.
We have to arrive, just like if we are not ready to see a truth, it can jump into our faces and we will not see it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to get there, each one at their own pace.
Mm-hmm. So then it becomes an invitation for anybody that might hear us talking today. What does it take for an individualized consciousness to start to step into this field or this band that we are calling truth? Because it's a marvelous step on a journey. So most of it, it's not about becoming a better person. It's not about doing the right thing. It's more of a unveiling and getting rid of barriers, false beliefs, ideologies, social identities, all the things that keep us from becoming a more expanded in our state of acceptance and a consciousness. And I think that's the two-handed side of what many of us are doing right now. It's like, let's take away the veils. Let's take away some of the lies. Look, look, look.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody is able to do that, then they're peeling back a layer. And then they're now ready for the next layer to be peeled back.
And it all feeds into the collective.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really, really important, because the collective reflecting it back to all of humanity means that more people will look for it.
Mm-hmm.
And baby steps again.
Mm-hmm. So if we go step back to the beginning of our conversation, and not to go too long today, because that's in your words, Claudia, differentiate between and speak a little bit more about what you understand of source AI, the binary field, or we could even say linear, one flat plane, and how that AI, I mean, the truth is information, just like you said. How does that differentiate for you? How do you know it yourself?
Harmony and disharmony. Sound.
Mm-hmm. So either something is working towards a harmonic state, creative, or something is working in a disharmonic, chaotic, destructive state.
Destructive, yes. Yes, exactly.
Right. So we can pin that on ourselves too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Uh-huh. And if we ourselves don't find that in ourselves, how can we expect it to be in the outer?
It's not going to happen.
Right.
As above, so below.
Yeah.
I know people laugh at me when I keep saying that, but it's like, open your eyes, people.
Mm-hmm.
It's there for everyone to see.
Or another way that I put it is, for it to be a truth, it has to line up through all the dimensions, all time, in a straight.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's not like itemized bits of truth. Yeah, there may be. You know, there's a little piece of truth in this piece of history. There's a piece of truth even in what the controllers are doing. There's pieces of truth there. It's not like it's there, but when you can line it up. So may I share what I shared with you earlier about my inner journey this morning?
Yeah, of course.
When we say as above, so below, it can become a very trite saying. We can use it erroneously in a lot of ways. And we are in a state where our scientists, our physics, all of our science that's moving forward through quantum fields, through understanding what is time. But I had this experience that brought it home to me. And I've always known it here. I've known it partially here in this body. But this morning it was like something provided me with an experience. And I was asking what you and I were going to talk about. And it was like I went inside me. And I saw my whole body, because this is all I am here, okay? I don't own anything really. You know, I'm given this physical manifestation. This is my projection? I don't know, right? But inside of this, taking it down to the energetic level, I saw myself as protons and electron quarks and all the little particles that are light in a vast field. And the thought came, you're a universe. And then I understood that all my particles, those that are my heart, my liver, my hands, my eyes, all the particles that make up me are really a universe. And as I was feeling that, I thought, well, this is my responsibility. This is my universe. It's within me. So if I'm in a state of centered peace, if I am a manifestation and understanding that really the field is love, the ultimate is love, then my particles, my universe, is going to be in harmony. It's going to be in a rotational field, or whatever you want to call it, that's harmonic, that's creative, that knows joy, that knows laughter. And that's my responsibility. Mm-hmm. And then it went deeper, and I went, I'm having an experience. I'm part of Mother Earth. I'm part of this realm of creation, like that drop in the ocean. Mm-hmm. And I saw her, and I thought, this is bazillions and gazillions of stars and galaxies in that energetic field, and we're the interface with it. I am her as well as she is me. And so when you say harmony, Claudia, when you say creation, that's the only way one can really judge themselves. If I'm bringing down a false, but if I'm revealing a falsity that I see, or a manipulation or any of that, that still doesn't affect here. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Because I see what's happening. Yeah. And I think the more close we get to that, and many are, not big deal, but many of us are. But mm-hmm. when we get closer to that being state or that manifestation, everything starts to make intricate sense.
Yes.
I mean,
well put.
But it does. And then the consciousness expands, because now it's ready to see more. And yet when all this complexity is in harmony, there's no confusion. And so maybe this reality that we're so deeply enmeshed with all of these destructions going on around us, we are a world at war, friends. I mean, it's not the Syrian people and the Palestinian people. All people are in a state of war.
Oh, yeah, we are completely at war with ourselves. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it can't be from the out. It has to come from the inner. It has to come from the inner. Mm-hmm. And, so AI, it's data. How is that data going to be used? How is that technology going to be used? There's nothing, like you said, Claudia, nothing is inherently bad or good. No. It's how it's utilized. And I would hope that anything that you and I share today would be to inspire another to step out of the box a little bit further, embrace their truth a little deeper.
Yeah.
And then share. Don't be afraid to share what you see.
Yep. I have nothing to add to that.
Good. You have nothing to add?
I have nothing to add.
This is so typical for you and I.
No, you put it perfectly.
Let's take one more thing here, and I'm going to let you do it, and then we can end this. And I think we're ready to start having these smaller talks again. Maybe invite some people to join us. There is a lot going on about hyperdimensional realities.
Right.
For me, when we speak of hyperdimensional realities, there is an inherent embedded thought that they're separate.
Yeah.
It's like these dimensions are separate. There's some sort of like film or gap or, and I know you've expressed differently.
I have. Well, I agree with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. It's not. They're not separate. Mm-hmm. We just have a limited vision.
Exactly. So really if we really want to take on full responsibility for ourselves, we have to understand that what we're doing right here, right now, today is affecting all the dimensions or I like to use the word realms.
Yes, I prefer that.
Because it's almost like a realm within a realm within a realm within a realm, and without that idea of separation. Like, it's not a dimension I can't get to, or I've got to do something, I've got to make a spaceship to go there, whatever, right?
Well, I mean, that's an attractive possibility.
Say more.
Well, I mean, who doesn't want to travel in a spaceship? Come on.
Well, of course. No, I know. I do too.
No, we don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is within.
Mm-hmm. Well, even, with the technologies that they, talked about with the spacecraft that, either have come down or they've been seen or whatever, that's not my real field of expertise, but I do know enough to know that most of the craft that have been, either sequestered or found or whatever here on the planet are based on interface with consciousness.
Yes.
And so in a real way, that's where we're going to go. And yeah. Oh, I'll go for a space ride with you.
All right.
Okay.
Take some dragons too.
Dragons, yeah. Dragons is a good one. We can talk about them later.
Hey, we were going to keep this short.
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying is like, we haven't done this for a while. So why don't we just kind of like do a few short ones? And, if anybody wants to, join us, holler.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and Claudia, thank you. It's always fun, and I hope I don't talk more than I should.
No, you didn't. I feel like I've done a lot of talking. Definitely more in the last half hour than in the last, I don't know, 3 weeks or so.
I know. We all need times of isolation, and we all need time away from everything and whatever it is. But I just would like to, you and I, and we've talked about this, focus our words as carefully as we can without getting too long. There's a ton of stuff out there about what we're talking about today. So
yeah.
Anyways, well, blessings to everybody. And maybe Claudia and I will get around to doing this again soon.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, darling.